I created Beauty Academy, which is going to be our case study for today, so I'll talk about it later on. And I also executive produced The Bachelor, which is an American show created by Mike Fleiss. I bought the rights in 2004, and I did 3 seasons of the show in France. And maybe because they liked my style, the American people from Warner, Horizon, and the American channel ABC accepted that I would co-executive produce the season 9 of The Bachelor for the USA. Just out of a very simple idea, I proposed ABC to bring The Bachelor in France and to do the season 9 of The Bachelor in the French territory. It was called Bachelor in Paris, and it reached 12 million viewers on ABC at the time. It was in 2006. My show, Beauty Academy, is also now adapted in Brazil on Globo TV, Globo South, and it's called Desafio de Beleza. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about is about this. Just before I came on stage, some questions were asked about how do you finance a documentary? Well, my question when I came to China was how do I finance a show in China? My basic reasoning was, I'm French, I don't speak Chinese, nobody knows me in China, how can I do business in China? Well, I thought Chinese people are business people, so I should come more as a businessman and not only as a creative person. What kind of business are TV people interested in China, like anywhere else in the world? It's to get advertising money, to have good ratings, and to make a business out of the shows they put on the air. So I developed a show, and I basically sponsored the show with a very famous French cosmetics retailer called Sephora. And this is exactly the story I'm going to tell you. It's the way I made my way to the Chinese market by having a sponsor that helped me finance my show so that when I came to the Chinese channels to talk to them, I was becoming more like a business partner potential for them rather than just an executive producer pitching a show. Because it's good to pitch a show. Stephen has helped us understand what's the pitching mechanism. But even if you have a great show, it's very hard sometimes to sell it. Yesterday, Rebecca Young was talking about The Voice. Well, The Voice took 18 months to sell to China. So it doesn't mean that if you have a very strong ratings potential show, it doesn't mean you're going to sell it anywhere else in the world, especially in China. So you have to bring something more to the picture. And first of all, you have to bring cultural savviness. The makeup gap is something that I discovered through learning and reading and studying a lot about China. And this is where all my project came from. Back since 1949 to 1980, in the communist era in China, which is still communist, but at the time of the Mao era, basically one of the good things about communism in China, at least, was that female and male were put on the same level, which meant that there was harmonization of looks, of dressing, of fashion. Basically, people were dressed all the same. They had all the same haircuts, and basically, female were not using any makeup. Makeup was big in China before communism, especially in the court in Beijing. But suddenly, everything was leveled up, and this is how people actually, feminine women looked back in 1962. Now, in 2012, this is my friend Lu Yan. She's a very famous Chinese top model, and this is the way she's appearing in the magazines in China. Obviously, you see there is a very, very strong change in terms of beauty and looks, and basically my show has tried to capitalize into this evolution of the Chinese society when we're talking about beauty, and especially how makeup does bring something special to beauty, and how makeup takes a big part for any woman in the world, especially in China, to have a good life. This is basically how I worked my way through China. First of all, I created a format. Second of all, I found a sponsor, Sephora. The fact that Sephora is a French company and is owned by LVMH, the first luxury group in the world, obviously was a help to me because I'm French too, so I could culturally relate to these people. Then I'll tell you about that a little bit later on. I worked with Dragon TV. I went hunting for a channel in China, and I finally came to reach a deal with Dragon TV, which is part of SMG Group out of Shanghai. And this is my little boutique shop in Paris, A2G Creations, which is the company that I'm working out of in Paris, where I focus not on producing shows, but mainly on creative shows. And out of the creations that I make, I go and pitch in France, around the world. And for this specific show, I could enter the Chinese market. Just a quick word on Sephora. So once again, the show I'm talking to you about is entering a category called branded entertainment. Branded entertainment is shows or contents that are related to brands. This is a very big phenomenon, but it cannot happen in all the countries around the world. Actually, in France, it's very hard legally to embed products and brands within your show because it's legally forbidden. I don't know how it works here in Singapore. In China, the market is much more open to melting brands and shows, all the more so as this melting helps finance the show and the show to actually exist. So Sephora was entering the Chinese market back in 2005. Now they have more than 100 stores and heading towards 150 stores. There is a Sephora store down the road, actually in the building. And you can check it out if you guys don't know already. But it's a very interesting concept of high-end, luxurious supermarket of cosmetics. It took me basically 12 months to enter the Chinese market. I think I was lucky because for some people it takes much longer. Some people never make it. I guess I was there at the right time, at the right moment, and I met the right people. So basically, I'm going to take you through the process. First of all, I created the format. It was back in 2010. Actually, the format was within me in the making for 5 years already. Now, when you create a format, it's not like, okay, I'm waking up in the morning and I'm going to create a TV show. It's more like Steven said, so it's working, everyday research, everyday inhaling. Back in 2006, I did the French version of American's Next Top Model. And I had the opportunity to bring over the show as the godfather of the show. And do you remember a guy called Karl Lagerfeld? Karl Lagerfeld is the #1 designer in the world right now. He's the designer of Chanel. He has his own brand. And Karl introduced me to some of his friends. And behind the big designer that he is, I discovered that very talented makeup artists were hidden in the back, but playing a key role in making his défilés, his fashion shows, successful. So I always wanted to, I started to think of makeup artists as talent. And I said, one day I will do a talent quest to look for the best makeup artists. The Voice is a talent quest to look for the best voice. Well, I said back in 2005, I want to do one day a show to look for the best makeup artist because I think these people have incredible talents. Some are very bad, but some are very talented, and some are really artists. So I created the format formally over 2 months in my studio in Paris. So it's a writing process. Then in September, through acquaintances that I had met in Shanghai, I had the opportunity to pitch to the CEO of Sephora in Shanghai, the CEO of Sephora China. It's a woman, her name is Anne-Véronique Bruel, and she was the new CEO of the company. So I think my opportunity there was that she was trying at that very moment to have a bold strategy, a bold statement. When a CEO comes to a company, usually they have 100 days or maximum a year to create their stamp. So I met that person at the moment she could create the stamp. And the stamp became my show, Beauty Academy. So I pitched the show to Sephora CEO, and she said, this is what I need to improve, to increase my brand awareness in China. I mean, what best than TV to actually promote your brand? But usually brands sponsor a show or brands have a 30-second ads. Now, what best than a real show dedicated to my brand in China? Well, that's the best window I can ever dream of. So she said, I want to do the show. She said, how much? I answered the question, and she said, okay, we're going to meet the CEO of Sephora World in Paris. That was October. Then the CEO of Sephora World in Paris pitched it to Bernard Arnault's team. Bernard Arnault is the owner of LVMH. He's a French, very talented businessman, very tough businessman. And they understood that for China, you have to be bold. So let's do a TV show. That's an original idea. So in November, I precisely budgeted the show. In December, we signed the contract. In January, I shot a pilot. Now, the pilot was partly funded by myself, partly by Sephora. So I invested also part of my own money into it. So it was more than a sizzle tape. It was actually a pilot. So I kind of didn't follow Steven's advice on this one, but I had some financing from Sephora to help me do it. I also did a pilot because I wanted to produce the show. I don't speak Chinese at first. I wanted to see how I would cope with the Chinese crew to do a Mandarin show, being a French person. And actually, I had a little thing here, like this one I have here, in my ear all the time, with direct translation of everything that was happening on the set for me to be translated into English. So I could understand what was going on. And in the end, I do shows for 15 years. And I mean, human beings are, whether they're Chinese American or Singaporean, are basically not all the same, but they have some common traits. So I could really work efficiently, even though I didn't understand at the time Mandarin. And I still don't understand it very well. In February, I started to channel hunt. So I went to Beijing, I went to Shanghai, I went to Hunan. I also went to Beijing to try and develop my network because in China, Guangxi is very important. Guangxi is relationships, as you all know. And so I tried to have some backup, some prominent people who would support my project and who also say that I could be trusted as a producer and director. I channel hunted, and in March, I met Dragon TV, which is the entertainment, the big commercial channel of SMG Group in Shanghai. And the second opportunity for me was that they were launching China Got Talent, which was a very big show. They had a great success, and they wanted something new and fresh to put on the air after that show. They also something happened is that I was stunned because I was doing this meeting in Shanghai in a hotel, the Four Seasons Hotel, and I showed my demo as director and producer to the Chinese crew of Dragon TV, and the guy said, "We want you to direct the show. We want the show and want you to direct the show." And I was like, "But I don't speak Chinese. How do you, are you sure of this?" "We don't care you don't speak Chinese. We like your style. We want you to be directing the show." Meaning that it was like being in the USA, where people don't have any boxes, people can take risks, and suddenly they give you your chance. So I was blessed that Dragon TV gave me the opportunity to actually direct my own creation. We made the deal. Of course, we made a deal also because I came to the table with a sponsor, and I came to the table with money. So we were discussing business, not only TV and content. And I think in China, it's the name of the game. Like actually anywhere else in the world right now. I had to deliver the show for the next summer, so I didn't have time to think. I had to set up a crew. I found a local co-production partner in Shanghai. I heard the 120. I basically moved from Paris to Shanghai, and I interviewed people day and night to try and set up a good production team. I hired 100 people that I needed to do the show, and then in May we went to do the regional casting. In June, we shot the show, and we edited the show in June, July, and August. And the show was broadcasted starting July. But just before that, I discovered that my show was not safe yet. It was financed, it was produced, it was green-lighted by the channel, but my show didn't had yet passed censorship. So I heard about censorship, of course, but that was kind of a very thrilling moment for me to know that my show was going through censorship in first Shanghai and then Beijing. The fact that I was being a French director in China, doing a Chinese show on Chinese TV, made the situation even more tricky. But in the end, the show was approved and broadcasted in 2011 on Dragon TV. That's the promotional poster of season 2. And by the way, you can see me on on the picture here. Why is that? It's because after season 1, which was a great success, I'm going to give you the data right now, the channel not only wanted me to direct the show and produce the show, but they said, we want you to be on the jury because we think having a French man on the jury for a beauty show is good, appealing, and sexy. So here I am doing TV in China. I have a Weibo account. Yes, indeed. I have thousands of fans, and it's pretty exciting. I actually have good friends at the airport when they see me coming, even though I'm flying economy, I'm in business class, and so it's pretty cool. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that because, in the Q&A if you want to know more about the way I do it, but basically I speak English in the show, what I say is translated, and I have a here also, everything is translated for me live, so I can relate, and more, as I spend almost half my year in China, I kind of grab more of the Chinese language now, at least some words here and there. And I'm having a Chinese teacher train me, but it's a painful process. So basically, Sephora invested in the show not for my eyes and for me, and not for anybody in particular. The show was made to increase the brand awareness of Sephora. That was the goal. And the second goal was Sephora wants to position itself as an educative tool. Sephora wants to bring service to the Chinese female audience by explaining how to make up, to look better, to seduce a husband, to work better in the business environment, to look younger, which is very important in China, because I learned that a woman that is over 30 and not married is called a leftover. That was stunning to me as a Frenchman, but it's the Chinese cultural reality. So there is a lot of pressure on beauty for women in China. Maybe it's the same thing in Singapore, I don't know. But at least the idea was to try and help and educate the audience also about makeup. I created the studio back in Paris with my designers, and we built a studio in Shanghai, which was related to cosmetics. I'll show you a little trailer later on. And the idea was to really embed Sephora's DNA within the show. So to make a fashionable show, to have a decor that would embed the values and the colors and the references to the Sephora brand. Of course, the show had to have a French touch because Sephora is French, and in China, being French is a positive statement, at least in the luxury business. I had to embed the Sephora products and the products that are exclusively distributed by Sephora. I had to position the show pretty much eye-hand. We went to Paris to shoot 2 episodes to give it the French taste to the Chinese audience and also to appeal to people who don't care about makeup but who would be interested in discovering Paris in a new way. We had celebrities on board. I had Lu Yan, who's a top model. I had Tony Li, whose Chinese name is Li Dongtian, who's the #1 makeup artist in China, to be on the jury. We had some challenges in Shanghai, in Paris, in some Sephora stores, and basically also in every episode you have beauty tips and master classes where you learn more about makeup. So in a nutshell, the season 1 was pretty amazing in terms of return. Once again, my goal was not to do an advertising that would last 45 minutes. My goal was to do an entertaining show servicing Sephora as my client, but also servicing Dragon TV as my other client. We were Wednesday night, 10 p.m., prime time in China. First prime time is 9, second one is 10 p.m. The show increased the slot ratings by 30%. We had 25 million votes on internet to support the contestants. As you might know, in China, you cannot vote with the telephones. It was possible back in the days, 5 years ago, but when Supergirl had 125 million people call to vote, I guess people got freaked out in Beijing. So they stopped voting through telephone, and now people can only vote through internet, which is a bad thing for business because you cannot make money out of the voting, but at least that gives you an idea of the attractivity of the show. We had 15 million views on internet. I'm putting those numbers because actually it's very hard to know exactly what's the rating of your show in China, because channels can give you the numbers they want, depending on the business relationship you have and the moment you are in the business negotiations with them. At least internet sometimes can give you more accurate number, even though I have to say also internet in China can be scary because some numbers are played around. But on paper, at least, those numbers are real. And we had a 60,000 fan base from Weibo that we could see was pretty much interacting with us. So we could see real people were there watching the show and enjoying the show. The season 2 that is being on air right now in China, actually the finale of the show is this coming Sunday. He's going great so far. We have had 7 episodes. The latest data I have is on the 4 first episodes, with a 20% increase in market share, with 5 million viewed episodes for the first 4 episodes. We have an official partnership with Youku.com, and the fan base now is 145,000. And basically, we kind of took the show to another level. I have to say that also improved the show because I understand now better the Chinese culture, the Chinese viewers' expectancy. I did a lot of focus groups to understand my audience. And in the end, I think now I'm getting better and better at doing a Chinese show because I don't want to do a French show in China. I want to do a Chinese show with the French touch. And by the way, my team is 95% Chinese. I'm the only foreigner. I have one camera operator who's German, but everybody's Chinese. And this is very enriching for me. So to sum it up, before I show you some pictures and we can go and ask and share questions, the show is now in the air on China for the 2nd season. The good thing is that after the 1st season, I went to MIP in Cannes. I could pitch the show to a lot of international buyers, and I sold the show to Brazil. I'm very proud because SMG is a very prominent buyer in China, and Globo is the #1 Brazilian media group and one of the biggest in the world. And Globo bought the show to put the show on the air on Globosat, which is the satellite service of Globo, and on one channel that's called GNT. And the show just finished now in Brazil. And I went to Brazil to consult on the production, and we're preparing already a 2nd season. What I propose to you is to watch a 3-minute trailer of the show, and then we can share questions and answers.
欢迎来到美丽学院，东方卫视重磅推出的彩妆真人秀。美丽学院第2季将为丝芙兰寻找中国超级美妆巨星。
很棒的一个作品，谢谢你。
那没必要啊，
不要这个。
今年我们将从武汉、沈阳、广州、北京、上海的数千名选手中挑选出全国10强，最后的赢家将会成为丝芙兰新晋美妆巨星。最新一季美丽学院充满惊喜，我们全新搭建的摄影棚将供选手在比赛期间居住，并且全程记录他们的生活点滴。我们邀请到3位重量级的国际嘉宾担任美丽学院第2季的评委。美丽学院由丝芙兰赞助，国际团队倾力打造。我们拥有超凡实力的选手，并且他们会面对非同寻常的挑战。他们会来到竹林，打造一组与动物一起拍摄的时尚大片妆容。晚上，他们还将展现更具想象力的伪装造型。选手们将为享誉全球的音乐剧《猫》的演员化妆。选手还会到水族馆去完成他们从未接触过的人体彩绘。选手要在有限的时间里使出看家本领，来完成一组奢华妆容的打造。选手还将变身为模特，来演绎 Michael Jackson、强尼德普、卡尔大帝、玛丽莲梦露的经典形象。他们还要为特别来宾的上海凤凰夜打造一组华丽妆容。 请关注东方卫视。欢迎来到美丽学院，欢迎来到美的世界。
So that's the trailer. And by the way, I'm very happy to be here in Singapore, not only because I came first 20 years ago to be a trainee here, but also because Zing, the person you saw in the trailer, the makeup artist, is the #1 makeup artist in Asia. He's the makeup artist of Fei Wong. Fei Wong is the Celine Dion and Michael Jackson together of China and Asia. And Zing is born in Singapore. Zing is a fantastic artist, a great person. He was born and raised here. He left Singapore when he was 18 to go to take his chances in Hong Kong. And he became the #1 makeup artist from Hong Kong and took care of all the big up-and-coming stars from the movies and the music. And now he's almost a star in his own sake. He has 2 million followers on Weibo. And Zing is just an incredible artist. So I'm very glad that I have a Singaporean-born partner in the show in China, and that's a tribute to Singapore also. So now, guys, I mean, if you have any questions to ask me about my Chinese adventure or the show, or if you're interested to do the show in Singapore or any other country in Southeast Asia, I would love to answer to your questions. Yes?
Did Sephora then create a special line of products in their stores where they took the Beauty Academy name and integrated it on the products, did consumer promotions, and all the other things that brands tend to do with branded entertainment these days? And how successful were any of those campaigns in terms of ROI?
Well, that was one of the questions we had was, do we immediately create some ancillary products to go with the show, like the Beauty Academy case of products, et cetera, and et cetera. Sephora is preparing that for the next season, if we actually do it next season. But at first, the idea was to create brand awareness, so we were focusing on the Sephora brand. Number 2, Sephora, to help gather financing for the show, has some of its exclusive brand partners, like Makeup Forever, like Benefit, like Hairburst, to participate in the show. So in the end, it was not decided by Sephora to do a Beauty Academy special toolkit, but more to do some special focuses on those brands, depending on the episodes being on the air. For example, Sephora asked me to work with Makeup Forever, and it happens that this very famous makeup brand created a lipstick that is called Moulin Rouge lipstick. So what I did was design a whole episode around the Moulin Rouge. We went to Paris to shoot the contestants, the makeup artists, where they were trained by the dancers of Moulin Rouge on how to do makeup, fast stage makeup. It happens that the dancer at Moulin Rouge do the makeup on themselves or by themselves. So it was very interesting because they trained the makeup artists, male and female. Then they had to do the makeup on themselves to be ready to go on stage. And the best 2 of that group was selected to do the real makeup before the dancers were going on stage at Moulin Rouge. So the whole episode was around Makeup Forever's Moulin Rouge, but in a way that for the audience it would be entertaining, and for the viewer it would not be like pure brand positioning and product placement. It would be storytelling, servicing the brand, and not the brand being a pain in the ass. So to answer your question, there was no specific product creation out of the show yet, but there were some specific marketing campaigns dedicated to the products that were put in light within each episode. Yes, I hope my answer is clear to you.
Hi. You said you lived and breathed the creation of your format for 4 or 5 months to develop it, but it sounds like the sponsor took over and led you by the nose and told you what to make. So how much of it is truly your format versus how much the sponsor ends up influencing the production?
Okay, first of all, it's not for 5 months, it's for 5 years. So it means it was really within me. And to answer your question, well, I'm very lucky producer. First of all, I have to say I don't come from the advertising business. I come from the TV business. I've been doing shows for 15 years, so my main concern is ratings. It's not brands. So when I pitched the show to Sephora CEO, I told them the first thing that I wanted to be clear between us is that I will never put the brand or any products in the show unless it makes sense for the viewer in the storytelling of the show. So no, they didn't take over the show at all. What I did as a producer, though, was servicing them by embedding Sephora within the show. For example, I have a slide back there where you see the studio. In the studio, I told Sephora, I don't want any Sephora logo. Well, in China, you have logos of sponsors everywhere in the background of the juries, not only on the TV side, but also in the decor. Now, Sephora said, I understand you want the logo, but please give me something that will relate to my brand. So I went to the stores, I studied the stores, and within the decor, you have some black and white references that are there. So basically, people understand this is a Sephora show, but they don't see the brand. So, well, maybe actually the brand took me over, or maybe I wanted to service them well enough so that I took what they have as DNA and I embedded it in the show, but with always being careful not to push the brand in the face of the viewer, because viewers are educated. If it's too commercial, they're gonna zap and go to another show. So my balance was to try and make Sephora happy while making a real entertainment show. And to finish answering your question, I don't like the term branded content because, first of all, content, what is content? My job is to do programs. I don't do content, I do programs. And so I try to do a branded programming experience. I like to call this show a branded entertainment experience. So, of course, Sephora is paying for a big chunk of the show. So I have to, of course, respect that and service them. But I had a management in front of me that was bright enough to understand that if the brand is too obvious within the show and the products all over the place, the show won't have good ratings. So we won't reach the ultimate goal. And so they let me a lot of room to, create stories rather than product placement. Yes?
A couple of questions here. What did Dragon TV bring to the table? Was it purely in kind, or was there a monetary? Did they put in any monetary contribution to the show? And secondly, do you own all the rights to the format? And does Sephora or does Dragon TV own any rights? And how did you then subsequently sort of sell this format to Brazil, for example, or to others?
Okay, to answer the first question, no, DTV didn't bring any cash to the table, but DTV brings a lot of different elements. First of all, they bring the air, of course. To have a show like that on the air is part of the deal. It's a 52-minute show. We had 10 prime time. We had a big press conference in Shanghai, a lot of media coverage. So the fact that they opened the channel and gave us, they sold us 1 hour, basically, still was not natural to them. And so they brought some airtime. They brought some promotional time. We negotiated a package of promos on the air to go with the show, each promo being sponsored by Sephora. So we kind of developed a net of on-air promotion plan that would fit Sephora's needs and would fit DTV's needs. Being a former TV executive for 10 years helped me also design that with Sephora and to propose it to DTV. And last but not least, we have had very proactive conversations with people at DTV. My direct counterpart is the head of production at Dragon TV. His name is Mr. Dai. And Mr. Dai is a very experienced producer. And so we had a lot of exchange so that the show would be Chinese show with a French touch. That's one thing. And the second thing is, I'm doing shows for 15 years, and China is getting to be on par with all the other international markets. But there are things you cannot do in China that you can do in France or the US. And they help me understand that better. For example, my way of editing a show is very American-like, so it goes very fast, a lot of teasers, a lot of ways to catch the audience and to keep them. In China, you have to take time to explain things. You have to make sure people understand the rules, otherwise they think they don't get it. I have had to calm down my editing techniques, or at least style, with my editors, to make sure everybody understood what I was used to going very fast, because in Europe, people are eating this kind of writing. So basically, DTV brought a lot of their expertise to us doing the proper show. And last but not least, I think the fact that DTV said, we want to do the show, of course they have their financial interest to do the show, but they took the show to Beijing for the censorship. They went to see Soft to defend the show and to have authorization for the show to be on air. Well, that's a very big plus that they brought to the picture. So overall, we're very happy of the way we've worked with them. And the second season now is on the air, and hopefully we'll do a third one. Okay, second part of your question. I own basically all the rights of the show. Maybe because I'm a 15-year experienced TV executive, and that, as Stephen was saying just before, it depends on your lawyer. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it depends also on my expertise and what I bring to the table. So basically, I created the show in France, so it's protected under French laws, which are, by the way, the best laws in the world for copyright protection and intellectual property protection. So I'm happy to be French in that respect. For example, in the US, the intellectual protection doesn't exist. It's the copyright protection, which is different. So I'm recognized as an author. I own the legal rights of the show, so I could bring it to China. Now, it doesn't mean my show is not going to be copied. Of course not, because copy is everywhere. But then the execution of the show is the one that protects you most. And I have my unique way of doing it, and that's why also I think the TV hired me. So I hope at least the style of the show makes it different from any other copycat that might exist. As far as the finished product, I also own the rights of the copyrights of the masters, and that helped me to actually not only sell the rights of the show to Brazil, but also I'm trying to get second windows for the show in Asia for Chinese-speaking markets. And of course, Sephora will be interested in those sales. They're not interested in owning a show. This is not their business. And it was not my idea at first at all. But Sephora has a first look option to be the sponsor of the show in any country we do it in the world. And Sephora has ancillary revenues interest in everything we do, including reselling the Chinese show anywhere else.
How do you engage the audience?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Makeup is quite niche, and not at all niche, because every woman makeup in the morning, at least in China, makeup is very big. So being a makeup artist is very niche. But talking about makeup and learning about beauty tips is pretty wide in audience appeal. I'm still struggling with that question, though. I have to say, the show is not The Voice in China. It's a show that does very well, but it's not the national phenomenon, because I think makeup artists are still a niche community. But at least what I'm trying to do, and better in the second season, hopefully in the third season, is to get the female audience to be interested in the show, not because they want to become makeup artists, but because they want to use the skills of the makeup artist for themselves. So I tend to, for example, each episode has some challenges, and each challenge has some themes. And I tend to develop themes around seduction. A very big phenomenon in China is getting married, like anywhere else in the world, is dating. But still, there is a lot of issues around that. So how do you make up for a date? How are you going to be sexy enough, but not too sexy? What do you want to say through makeup? The second thing is, for example, how do you want to do makeup when you go to work? For a job interview, for a business negotiation, for a gala party. Well, all these things Chinese people are very much in need of learning how to do. Maybe not in Shanghai or Beijing, because people are very well already occidentalized and educated. But in second-tier cities, third-tier cities in real China, this information a need for people. And actually, the show is doing very good in some second-tier cities around in Liaoning, in Chongqing, in Kunming, meaning that there is 600 million potential viewers, 600 million women in China that can watch the show. So hopefully, the show will be more and more appealing to a wide audience.
Thank you, Alexis.
Well, thank you
for that
guys.
show.
Thank you
That
for listening
session,
to
yes.
me. Thank you.